happy 2025. I am coming to you from my office, and it is, oh gosh, I've been on a vacation, and I'll tell you why I put that in quotations, but I've been on vacation since, oh my gosh, December 30th. So I'm having a hard time figuring out what day it is, and yeah, my head's a little bit all over the place, but it's a good feeling. Now, going forward with this little channel, for a while I'd been doing videos that followed around things I was doing in the archive, as well as just day-to-day happenings at the shop. And now I'm just going to kind of do a vlog type follow me around video on what I do during the week, and archive videos will now just be specialized videos on things I'm doing in the archive. Just trying to change it up a little bit, but this has definitely been a much needed vacation. It's been hard, and that's one thing I wanted to talk about for anybody who, you don't even have to be a small business owner, it's just working in general. You know, you go so long working all the time, and I have friends that work 6 days a week, some work 7 days a week because they have multiple jobs, and we're just going, working. And what I found in this week that I've been off is that I've been getting a lot of anxiety because I feel like I'm not doing anything. And if I'm not doing anything, I'm not being productive. And that means I've kind of failed at my vacation, because I've always done it in the past. Any of the vacations I've taken, I've normally only done 5 days. So I've been closed Mondays through Fridays. This year, I thought I'm going to be closed a little bit longer, from December 30th to January 7th, and closing my shop Mondays and Tuesdays now for the rest of the winter. And normally I would take the 5 days off, but I would always have this big project scheduled. Like a couple years ago, I really wanted to build a wall dividing my dressing room because it was just one long dressing room. So I spent the entire 5 days building a wall by myself. And that's not a break. Previous years, I know one year I redid the entire archive because it had just been storage after a couple of years of being in my space. And I did this huge clean out. I did a Facebook Live where I gave away a bunch of stuff for free and just did a whole reorganizing of it, but that took up the entire time. So this year I wanted to do something different because I was really suffering from severe burnout and just burning my candle at both ends. And I've been forcing myself to just do whatever I feel like doing at the time. And that's been very, very hard. And I know a lot of us struggle with that, feeling like our vacation, we have to pack as much into it as we can before we go back to work. But then we're always working, not getting that rest, and mentally that is not good. And this time I knew I had to do it differently because I've got a lot of things coming up in the new year that I need my mental health and energy for. And I'm still not there yet, but it's been very hard. The shame associated with just sleeping in until like 8 o'clock or 8:30, maybe staying in the house all day. And I do these little survey apps, and one of them, you can play this word game and you earn coins that build up to money. One day I just did that all day. And then at the end of it thinking, oh, I just wasted my entire day. I should have been doing this or doing that or getting this project done. I had a whole list of projects that I was going to get done. And I've gotten some done, but I know I had to keep telling myself this is supposed to be a rest, a vacation. So don't beat yourself up about it. So that's been the struggle. So I've been off this entire week. It's currently Saturday, so I have several more days off until I go back on Wednesday and get right back into the thick of it. So I'm trying to make the most of it. And so far, you know, doing the best that I can. Now, something that I don't get to do very much anymore, but I've been really wanting to do is just go out vintage shopping for myself. Not for the shop, but for myself. And I have this little list on my phone of things that I've just been looking for me. And one of those was a jewelry box. I love jewelry, I love brooches, and I have several jewelry boxes that are filled, packed to the brim with costume jewelry I've had since I was a kid, and I need another one. And I severely underestimated how hard it was going to be to find a jewelry box. The newer ones aren't my style. I don't like the wood, the polished wood. Those remind me of the ones I had when I was a little kid. Not my thing. I like the vintage ones, especially the ones that you open up and they pull out into like two levels. You can take the tray out and there's space underneath. I could not find any. I saw some online that I liked, like on Etsy, on eBay, but some of them were upwards of like $100 to $200. And I can't afford that. So went to a local antique mall, found a couple of options, but I just wasn't in love with them, so I left them there. But I did find several things for myself and a couple that I was intent on finding there as well that were on my list. I don't have everything here. I have some at the shop because we've been doing another project at the shop, but I promise it hasn't been days long, and I'll show you that in a little bit. But I did find several pieces for myself, and one of them I'm going back and forth on whether I want to keep or sell. I bought it originally just because I really liked it, and it was a really fair price. But now, I'm like, I really love it, but do I need it, or should I try to pass it on to a brand new home? So I found this really beautiful, it's either late 70s, early 80s, very geometric tri-fari necklace. Now, if you've been watching previous videos, in a couple of the jewelry lots I've bought, I've had a couple of pieces of really stunning 50s tri-fari pieces, and those have long since sold. But I haven't ever found a tri-fari necklace. Now, this is not nearly as valuable as those brooches were, at least not that I can tell. I haven't found one with the black triangle. I found one with the red online, and it's a really fair price. I also have this little tri-fari bracelet that belonged to my great aunt that I wear. But this one I really, really love, and I don't have a lot of necklaces like this, so I'm teetering. I want to keep it, but we'll see how I feel when the time comes. Now, the rest of the pieces I'll show you when I get back to the shop. I'm heading back there tonight after I have family dinner that we usually always have Saturdays. And there are just projects there that have nothing to do with sales or the shop floor. It's just more little projects in the back area and back room that will make me feel better when I go into work. So I'll show you the rest of this stuff when we get there. But another thing I've been doing is helping my mom clear out some things from storage. Now, my parents have been separated for a long time, and they've moved multiple times since I lived at home. I moved out right after I graduated high school and took with me what I could into my tiny little studio efficiency apartment, but everything else got left there, so my things have been kind of scattered to the wind, and we've been slowly, as the weather has been permitting, trying to go through storage, get all of my stuff, help alleviate some of all of that stuff that's built up that my parents are, especially my mom, are storing. But I found a bag of all of me and my sister's old clothing from the early 2000s, and they were all meant to be sold at a garage sale. And I don't know, I've been feeling really nostalgic lately. I think it's just now, 2025, you do a retrospective on the year and just, I don't know, you get to thinking a lot. And finding some of these clothes just brought back some really good memories. And there are pieces in there, I'm like, why would I sell that? I don't know why I put that up for sale and I start remembering pieces I wore in junior high and high school that to this day I still remember and think about. And they might just be long gone by now, but I saved as much as I could. And in some of those bags, I found pieces from the 70s and 80s of my dad's, and also my Uncle Mike, who sadly passed away before I was even born. And I'll talk about him. I'll probably give him his own separate video. A very, very acute businessman and really interesting life that sadly was cut too short. But I found one of his pieces that I thought was my dad's, but it was his. So in my archive, I've started collecting some things of my uncle's because, again, I never got to meet him. I just have always wanted to know more about him, and now that I have some of his clothing, pieces start coming together. So it was really cool finding a lot of these, but also emotional, because I finally feel now how a lot of customers I have coming in who will say, oh, I used to have these pieces, I used to have a dress like this, I can't believe I gave it away, I regret it. And I'm feeling that right now. But I have to show you one of the blouses I found that I got from, I don't know if any of you remember, in the 90s and especially the early 2000s, the store Wet Seal. I think that was a thing all around the United States. I don't think that was just limited to the Midwest, but correct me if I'm wrong. But it's from Wet Seal, which was one of my top 2 go-to places to get clothing. And this blouse, it fits me still, but it's not as flattering on me anymore, but I still love it and I'm not going to get rid of it. So it's this really beautiful, very in person, it's more of a dusty pink, but it's from Wet Seal, has all of this crocheted lace, some rhinestones, little jewels, beads, really, really beautiful, ties us in the back. And I remember in high school, I would wear this with my jeans. I was really into, I found some of my old ponchos. I had vintage ponchos and a couple of newer ones. Now I had this brown crocheted poncho that I would wear with this, very indicative of the early 2000s. And I remember going to school in this and people thinking, like, were you going to a club? But I love this and I would layer things under it. I think this one in particular, I know I did this with a couple of tops like this. I had just a basic long sleeved white top underneath, and I would always put that over it. And I don't think I have any photos wearing this. Again, back then I didn't have a phone in junior high. Majority of high school, I only got a phone, I think, later in my senior year of high school. So any photos, I don't even know if they exist anymore, but I had other blouses like this and a couple of in my head that I desperately want to find. But it gave me an idea to do a video pulling all of the clothing that I still have that I used to wear in junior high, high school, and early college. Especially with this conversation of indie sleaze coming back and 2000s fashion. I thought it'd be fun to pull a lot of the pieces I used to use, and I have a lot from ModCloth when ModCloth first started, before it was bought out by Walmart. So that will be an upcoming video. But I love this top and I'm so excited that someone at the garage sale didn't buy it, and now I get to just look at it and it has good memories. All right, so now we are just gonna go around for a little Saturday drive. It's sub-zero out in Fargo right now. I wanted to go out for a walk, but it's way too cold. So we're just gonna drive around, maybe go a couple of parks and just chill out for a little bit. Car rides are always really relaxing to me. All right, so we are at the shop and I am still on vacation. Now when I'm filming this, it is Monday. I kind of got a little lost in what I was doing, but we were at the shop just getting little projects done like this. Finally hanging up my Breakfast at Tiffany's framed print. I just wanted something to go up above the dressing rooms. And I'll finally show you what I bought when I went out antiquing. Again, didn't get a lot of stuff, but I'm excited about the few things I did get. All right, so one of the things I got was this foot. It's a display foot. It's made of a really heavy plastic. I think this one's from either the 1950s or 1960s. It's weighted at the bottom. And I plan on displaying some of the shoes on this just to see what it would have looked like on. When I bought this, the woman at the front counter kind of just looked at me and she asked, what are you going to do with it? And I told her, put a shoe on it. I'm going to use it for its intended purpose. Actually, it might have just been to display socks, but either way, I thought it was pretty cool. Now, I've also been on a mission just to find some more history about the building my shop is in. And when I was looking through postcards, I found this one of Elizabeth Taylor advertising her film Ivanhoe. And this was at a movie theater that has long since gone, the Grand Movie Theater in downtown Fargo. Every person who came to a film there got this advertisement. So, of course, Elizabeth Taylor, I had to get it. But then also, I bought 2 postcards that show the block that my shop is on. And it's called Main Avenue right now. But back in the turn of the century, early 1900s, it was called Front Street. And I'm going to set this down and zoom in. So if you look closely at this side, the O.J. Delaundersey Company. So this is the main building. And if you go down about where this white building is, that is my shop. And this, I believe, was from, I think it was around 1910. They had recently built these upper floors to the building, but I love finding little postcards about how my shop looked. I've been planning on doing a video about the history of that. And this is what the building looked like before they built those 2 levels on it. So it's really cool. I feel really honored to be in this spot. These buildings, at least the tops of them, still look relatively the same. The bottoms look a little bit more like a gentrified business district, but my shop is right here, and it used to be a cafe, a lot of different things throughout the years, but I was lucky enough to work in this brown building in college, and now this is my little shop. So hopefully if I can get some time and resources, I'll be able to do a really good video on that coming up. Now I'll get a better shot of this later this week, but this is another project I have been doing in back, elevating some of the archive pieces so you can see them when you first walk in the shop. I'll put in a photo here, but the top of that ladder is very, very high. These are high ceilings, and I have a little bit of a height problem, but got it done, got all of that just primed up a little bit more, hung up some of my display chairs, and over here, again, you can't see it, but I'll move everything later this week, but I moved my archive bookshelf that I had originally over here into the actual archive section. I'm getting that all organized. So I'm trying to keep this space a little bit more contained, but did a couple of projects today. That's all I want to do. I'm going to enjoy the rest of my vacation, and I'll continue here later this week. Good morning, everyone. It is Wednesday, January 28th, and it is my first day back after my vacation. And I have to say, I was a little nervous coming back. It kind of feels like when it's your first day back at school after a long holiday break or after the summer, you kind of get that nervousness. You're out of your routine, you're out of what you've been used to and normally doing. So that's kind of how I feel today, shaking up the cobwebs. I've only been off for about a week and a half, but for someone who works here 6 days a week for almost a year, since my last vacation, it feels like a really long time. So I have a lot to catch up on today. I'm trying really hard to not get overwhelmed and trying to just do things one by one. Got a lot of things coming up. Got an event in a month that I have to start really hardcore getting into, but I'm not going to talk about that right now. I'm going to just get some little things done, some housekeeping, paperwork, and see how much I can ease back into the swing of things. Now, I haven't opened up quite yet, but I wanted to show a little project I've been working on since I've been off, and I've been doing a lot of family history searching. Now, this woman right here, I had no idea she existed until relatively recently, within like the past year, but I'd only heard of her once. And doing some research on another family member that I'll get into, I came across her again, and this photo of her, which it's dated around 1920, but I personally feel like this is more from the 30s. And this is my great aunt. And all I knew about her growing up is that she lived and owned property in Los Angeles in the 20s and 30s. She moved back to our area at some point in time, and she was a very eclectic, complex, and interesting woman. Never married, didn't have any kids, but I found some photos of her and just, I'm very interested. And part of what I've been doing since I've been off is I've been rethinking the archive and just trying to expand it and make it even more personal. And I'm adding pieces from my own family into the archive. And she's one that, the little bits I know about her, she's an interesting woman. And as I said, very complex. And I'll do a proper video on it, but it shows a very interesting path of someone from birth until they pass and things they do and experience in their life. So that is kind of a nice passion project I've been doing to, I don't know, keep myself occupied and not sinking too far into burnout. So I'm really excited to dive more into that. Now, another piece of family history I'm getting into is from my uncle. And I just recently was able to get a box of his personal belongings. He passed away several years before I was born in 1984, but I don't know much about him other than very basic things. And this was his planner. And I'll go into more detail about him again in a separate video. I know this part of my family history is very sensitive, so I want to be, very respectful of that. But again, a very fascinating person who lived and worked in the Southern California, Brea, San Bernardino, all along that area, had a very interesting short life. And again, these are people that they're my lineage. This is who these are my family members. And I think to understand them, I can understand myself. That sounds so cheesy, but I can understand myself, and part of the decisions I make and the things I do are very reminiscent of things that they had done. So hopefully I can start making videos on that. It's a really fascinating history. I was over at a friend's place last night, and I was telling her about it, and she thought it would make a really interesting book. And glad she said that, because I think so too. But anywho, this is what I have with me. I've been carrying his planner with me for the last few days, and whenever I get stressed at work, this is, I think, going to be kind of my North Star right now, and what my bigger picture is for things I want to do right now. All right, so it's the next day, and I have some new vintage menswear that I am putting out. And one of the pieces that I'm not putting out and I'm keeping for myself is this late 1970s Wrangler Big Band chambray button down or button up. I always forget which one it is. And the reason why I'm keeping this and holding it out, so we'll turn it to the back. I haven't steamed anything yet, but it's for Ron Rico rum. And this actually belonged to my uncle. So I showed his planner yesterday. It's a little bit of a clue on what he did. I don't want to get too much into him until I can do an actual dedicated video, because it's definitely a story. But in the shop archive, I'm incorporating pieces from my own family, and this is one of them that I am going to be putting in there. I love it. I know it would sell lightning fast, but I've just been trying to keep things that belong to him, that have a really interesting story, just to feel closer to him, since I never was able to meet him. So that is what my goal for the day is. I, again, have some other nice men's pieces that I need to get all sorted and ready to put out. But the hunt for more information about my uncle continues, and you'll see more of that eventually.